in about 20 years, your adult children are going to be sitting in front of a therapist, and the therapist is going to say, tell me about your parents. What did they teach you about marriage? What did they teach you about respect? Right now, you have an opportunity to shape their answer because they're going to say words. Right? Why is it worth saving? Because of those words.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Couple Things
with Shawn and Andrew,
a podcast all about couples
and the things they go through.
Today, we have from the Gottman Institute, Laura Heck and Zach Brittle, who are licensed family and marriage therapist and counselor. I'm really excited. We keep reiterating over and over again on this show that we love sharing with you guys our experiences, our relationship, and how we get through things. But we are by no means professionals or know what we are doing. So we brought in the professionals for you.
Yeah, we like bringing on people who are qualified to actually give advice. And that's what Laura and Zach are here to do. They are certified by the Gottman Institute, which is an institute that has been doing research for dozens of years with thousands of couples. And you may have heard of a couple different research that they've done. They are well known for the 4 horsemen, which are like the 4 kind of early detection signs of unhealthy relationships. And also for the book, The 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work. So it's a couple, the Gottman Institute, Dr. John Gottman, the doctors Gottman started the Gottman Institute.
Yes.
But we're very glad that Zach and Laura, who are Gottman certified, came to join us. And we talked about a lot of different things, including why marriage is a cool form of relationship.
And why relationship can be worth saving, a lot of massive red flags within a relationship and kind of how to work through that. We actually went through kind of a live counseling session towards the end that was very beneficial. I actually asked them after our interview was over if they were taking on new clients because I liked them so much.
Yeah, and they said they are not. So they're actually doing a workshop though. In a couple of weeks, we'll link information to that down below. So check that out if you're interested. And also, I want to tease next week's episode because this episode did inspire us to do a full show where we do counseling together.
Yeah, we did a live therapy session with the Shrink Chicks, who are awesome.
Yeah.
Again, we love therapy, whether you're in need of it, like you have an issue, or if you're just wanting to work through communication. I think it's always very healthy and very encouraging and a good thing to do no matter what.
Yes. So thank you to Zach and Laura for joining us today. If you want to hear more from them and you enjoyed this episode, they actually have a podcast of their own called Marriage Therapy Radio. So we'll link that down below. And before I jump into it, do want to let you know that this podcast can be found on all the different platforms, including YouTube. We do a video form, which is really fun. So you can join us over there. And wherever you listen to the podcast, please subscribe to it and give it a rating. We really appreciate that. So without further ado,
let's jump in with Laura and Zach.
Zach Brittle, Laura Heck, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. We secured this interview through the Gottman Institute, which I would love to hear you explain what the Gottman Institute is and how important it is in the marriage landscape today.
We're going to probably talk over each other, not because, well, mostly because I think I'm smarter than Zach. Zach thinks I'm smarter. But
just for clarity, so our shtick, just our shtick. Okay, here's the deal. We host a podcast together. It's called Marriage Therapy Radio. We are married, but not to each other. We are both certified Gottman therapists. We've spent about 4 years kind of in each other's space. And so we're kind of like brother and sister. We spend a lot of time kind of interrupting each other, stepping on each other, making fun of each other. And so a lot of people, when we get reviews or whatever, they're like, Zach's mean or Laura doesn't listen or whatever. And all of that is true. And it's kind of just the way we've learned to be in relationships. So that said, we're happy to describe anything that you want, but we'll probably interrupt each other and I might be mean and Laura doesn't really listen sometimes. So
okay. All right. So, okay, here's what's up with the Gottman Institute is that the Gottman Institute it's founded by Doctors John and Julie Gottman. They're a married duo. Dr. Gottman is world-renowned relationship researcher. He has
Mr. Dr. Gottman. Yeah.
Mr. John Gottman.
There's two doctors. There's 2 Doctors Gottman. Yeah. So
that's true. Yes. John Gottman, Julie Gottman. Okay. So he's done over 40 years of research with couples, with over 4,000 couples. And he's studied relationships in a way that has never really before been done, where he was really studying relationships in like a laboratory setting. Which gave a lot of amazing information that is now really like the founding research that all other couples therapists are using around the world. You cannot get through a book or an article or any sort of relationship advice without stumbling upon the findings that Dr. Gottman found over the last 40 years. So the Relationship Institute, the Gottman Institute, is really a place where you can find resources for couples. You can train other therapists, which both Zach and I have been trained as certified Gottman therapists. They host workshops. So the Art and Science of Love is an amazing workshop. Actually, Zach and I are going to be teaching it this month, which is pretty cool. Yeah, pretty exciting about that. So the Institute continues to do research, and we'll talk about some of the findings because I think it's pretty important to be able to ground your relationship, not just on an opinion of what somebody was able to do in their relationship, but really figure out like, what does relationship research have to say about it?
That's good.
The cool thing too about John is John Gottman is like John, Julie, but John will describe himself as a mathematician, a researcher. Like that's who he is. And he met Julie, who is much more of an empath. She's like really great at sort of communication and trying to figure out how to reach people's hearts and souls. And the joke that he'll tell is he just had all this research and he was happy. He's like, I got math. I know how to do all this stuff. And she wanted to help people and he didn't really want to help people, but then they compromised and decided to help people.
Yeah.
So
Sounds about right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it goes. And so, yeah, they've just built this. The Institute helps couples and it also trains therapists. And so that's kind of the two-pronged approach that they're bringing to the table. And then we use the methodology that comes out of the research to sit down with actual couples in our offices and kind of walk them through, what science says about relationships. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's it. He's more the scientist. She's more the artist. I guess that's where that comes from.
Here's why we're excited to talk to you. Okay. We decided to embark in the YouTube world and stumbled into like sharing about our dating and marriage and family life. And now it's turned into people want advice from us. And we try our hardest not to, because we are not qualified. And we say that probably not every episode, but we try to.
At least every other.
And so you guys are actually professionals at this and we can ask you advice. And the good thing is it's research based. So that's why we're pumped to have you.
And I have to caveat every single time. My wife, I've been married 24 years to my wife. She doesn't listen to the podcast anymore because her experience was like, yeah, you don't do that stuff. That stuff that you say, that's not really you. So I have to caveat all the time by saying that professional expertise is not the same as personal mastery. So
I like that a lot.
That's good.
That is really good.
Laura, though, her marriage is airtight. She's got it down. So if you want to know who's practicing what they're preaching, it's right there.
Mostly because it's my husband. It's not because of me. He's way more emotionally intelligent than I am. I just show up and he takes the reins. So yeah.
Is there any, like, this is very stereotypical, but everybody says like, don't marry a therapist. Do you guys ever like find that within your marriages that you end up like analyzing your spouse more than you do?
No, I would say don't become best friends with your therapist. Like I don't think it's great that Zach and I are good buddies. I mean, I think that can get tough, but I dig it. I think it's great to be married to me.
It's not great that we're friends. I don't understand.
Well, it's two therapists being friends.
No.
It struggles sometimes.
Well, yeah. Okay. That's fair.
What's the most common question you find from couples? Like what's the go-to, like, I guess, piece of advice or
complaint?
Yeah. Or complaint.
What do you think, Zach?
I think the thing right now that people are talking about a lot is this idea of feeling like we just feel like roommates. Like we're just kind of going through the motions. COVID has really done that to people. Like we used to have these really clean rhythms of like being able to come and go throughout our day. And like, I could miss you. Like you would go away and then you would come back and I missed you during the day. But now I don't really miss you because you're here all the time. And I think that without this sort of the skills and even just the anticipation, people dropped into these really kind of boring rhythms. And a lot of what I'm seeing in my office right now is we're just sick of each other. Like it just there's no fun. There's no intimacy. There's
like
laughter,
no novelty either.
We're snippy about everything all the time. And that's really real for people, So
it sounds like the first couple months of having a child too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, how long have you guys been married?
6 years.
6 years.
5.5.
All right, ready? I'm going to blow your mind. You ready for this? I'm going to blow your mind. this idea that 50% of marriages end in divorce, it's pretty popular idea, but it's actually, most of us in the industry don't agree. They think that number is too high, that 50% is probably too high. But what we do know is that most marriages that end in divorce, they end inside of 7 years. It's most common around year 4. And there's usually a toddler in the mix.
Yeah.
And it's because of all the things that you guys are living and doing right now. It's because it's crazy and hectic, and this isn't what you signed up for, and our friendship isn't working, and sex isn't the same, and like all of that stuff piles up on people. And until they learn how to kind of weather the curve, a lot of people bail. And I think what's cool about me getting to tell people that is I'm usually telling people who are asking for help. The thing that those people who are divorcing don't do is ask for help. And so when you do, I think it's a really cool skill. And sometimes that's asking for help from YouTube, and sometimes it's a therapist, and sometimes it's, your mom's group. But
Your favorite
yeah.
podcasters.
Yeah.
That little list that you just ripped through is like, it hit me pretty. I mean, that was kind of what we're living right now.
Yeah.
But is your response and advice to that problem to ask for help? Is that the answer?
100%. Yeah. So the thing that interesting too, like we're going to share a whole bunch of research with you, because this isn't like our own opinion. This is really what the Gottman Institute has to offer, is this like breadth of research. But most couples, if they're divorcing within the 7-year mark, most couples are not seeking therapy until year 6. So they're really waiting. Like those problems are kind of just like stewing and brewing over 6 years. And then that's when they come in for help. And so, yeah, I think when we get couples in our office, it's usually after a lot of resentment has built up, a lot of bad habits and bad patterns. And that's really what we're trying to do, is just kind of like rewind a little bit and get them into a healthier spot. So you guys you're in year
6,
5, 6. 6
in
married?
year 6. Yeah. We're 5.5 years married.
5.5. Wait, hold on. You got engaged. You knew each other 30, what?
I'm
How many-
confused by this math. I can't do math right now.
We're in year 6. We're halfway through our 6th year of marriage. Is that what you're thinking?
No, we haven't hit 6 years.
We're halfway through the 6th year. Am I saying that right?
Your baby is halfway through its first year before it had its first birthday.
Oh
Right?
my gosh.
All I know
So-
is we're coming up on our 6th anniversary in
right on.
April.
But
There
we
you go.
dated for
2 years.
So you've
2
been married
years.
for 5.5 years. I got this. I got you.
There you go.
5.5 years.
dated for 2. We're engaged for 9 months. Been married
Yeah.
5.5.
All
Yeah.
right.
And we have a almost 2-year-old and a 2-month-old.
Yeah. They're
Almost
terrible.
2. Do you have 2 in diapers right now?
We do.
Oh yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Well,
We struggled to get pregnant with our first. And so we figured we would struggle to get pregnant with our second.
Yeah.
And we got
And you
pregnant
didn't.
on the first try. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I always love to ask lots of questions about that process, but I'm going to go ahead and leave that to mystery. But
Yeah.
Here-
I can explain it to you, Laura. I mean,
thank
it's pretty
you.
simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a high level question though, and I
Yeah,
think
okay.
it's worth asking. Why is marriage something that's worth saving?
It's interesting. I mean, I think a lot of people, I mean, I'm kind of curious, Zach, what you would say about this, but do you feel like people are giving up faster or sooner?
I think so. I mean, I think we live in a world right now where the stigma of divorce isn't as high, and people, have more options available to them. And sometimes they are wiser kind of about the cost benefit analysis. And Andrew, I don't know if this is the right answer, but I'm not sure it is. Some marriages aren't necessarily worth saving because they
Totally agree.
they really don't allow you to be your best self. And I'm not pro ending marriage at all. What I'm saying is, if a marriage doesn't help you become a better version of yourself, then it's probably really worth asking the question of whether or not it's worth saving. And I also think most marriages can help you become the best version of yourself. And what needs to happen in that case is that people need to have a plan, right? They need to have a plan. They need to have a why. That's a big business like cliche right now. What's your why? But
Like
when
your
you
mission
become
statement.
clear about your why, then you can, and you gain access to a plan, then it can just become fun. It can become an adventure. It can become rewarding. I mean, here's a thing. I play this trick on my clients all the time, and I'll play it to you right now. Your children, they're 2.5 months or whatever. In about 20 years, your adult children are going to be sitting in front of a therapist, and the therapist is going to say, "Tell me about your parents." What was their relationship like? What was it like growing up in their house? What did they teach you about marriage? What did they teach you about respect? What do they teach you about conflict? And, you know, right now you have an opportunity to shape their answer because they're going to say words. Right? Words are going to come out of their mouth. And you know, you have an opportunity right now to say, why is it worth saving? Because of those words, right? Those words could be really powerful and good, and maybe change the world, which I think is worth investing in for sure.
Well, we're huge fans of marriage, and every time I hear like these, you know, self-improvement gurus or a self-help speaker, everything, all the concepts they're talking about, I feel like are best represented in marriage. Like, you know, disciplines and long-term thinking and like there's a whole list we could go through. And marriage is, I think, a unique context to experience all those things in. So I don't know. Those
I think the other side of that though is we are lucky to be in a marriage where we both believe that, where it's worth saving for us. It's worth working for. It's worth, we do feel like we bring out the better side, or we try to challenge each other to bring out the better side of each other. But given how many people you guys have worked with and how many couples you've worked with, is there a piece of advice you would give to single people searching for marriage, searching for a spouse that sets them up for a successful marriage, so that later on down the road, they're not in a marriage where you're sitting in front of a therapist and saying, I don't know if this is worth saving, because it's not for the better of both of you.
I think, Laura, you have a really good answer to this. If it is what I think it is, then I think you're the best person to answer this question.
Yeah, I love that you think you know how I'm going to respond. My biggest piece, and it's funny because my little sister is like out there right now in the dating world. And, you know, she shared with me, she's like, yeah, I went on my third date and we decided we're going to delete our apps. And I was like, no, don't delete your apps. But, part of me wants her to date a lot to be able to, you know, like meet that person and experience like what different type of conflict looks like in different relationships and how like your family of origins influence how you show up. But the number one reason why I was pumped was because I know that she has done the work to show up as her best self and figure out who she is before she gets into a relationship. I don't know if you thought that was what I was going to say, Zach, but
yeah, it's not.
I'm a huge like advocate of knowing who you are, so that when you do get in a relationship, you can communicate about your wants, your needs, your desires. And if you don't know what those are for yourself because you haven't been by yourself for a while, experienced life, dated other people, you're not going to really understand what those things are. You're just kind of going to melt into the relationship. And I think a healthy relationship is two individuals that are sort of coexisting and have decided that they're going to do life together. But you have to be an individual first before you can become a partnership. So, I mean, it's my biggest piece.
Well, we got to hear what Zach's.
Okay.
Well, I'll say two things. One is 100% endorse that answer. I think, yeah, absolutely. You need to like do your own personal work. I mean, the people who struggle in my office, a lot of what we try to do, or what I try to do anyway, first is help them take responsibility for their own stuff. Like if they are defensive or if they are critical, like that's the starting point. Like you gotta rein that in. And that's actually maybe a good segue to this piece of the research that's pretty relevant around divorce. But what I thought you were going to say, Laura, is Laura and her husband are really good friends. And she talks a lot about how the basis of their origin story is that she married her best friend. Like they cultivated a very solid, just like camaraderie and regard and sort of playfulness that I think survives today. I got to spend a few days at their house last month. And so if I'm a single person and I'm looking to figure out how to be in a relationship with someone long term, I got to get my own house in order, right? Like take care of my own stuff. But B, like don't knock like, oh, this person is, we're really good friends, but I'm not attracted to them, or this is a really good friend, but you know, I think of them like a brother. Like those people, they stick around. Like that is, you know, I have two daughters, and right now my wife's all about having them date the nerds. Like date the nerd, date the theater kid, date the computer geek. Like those guys are the ones that end up being, you know, awesome. As I talk to professional athletes.
I was a theater kid. Yeah.
Right on.
So,
you were kind of a nerd when we started dating. I'm not gonna lie. In a professional athlete sense, he was a nerd. I was going to say,
I think her point is around like, don't chase the people who seem like they have it all.
Yes.
Right. Because maybe they haven't done the work of actually suffering through relationships and figuring out how to be kind and be humble, like, so I don't know. It's a stereotype, but that's what my wife's training our girls to do.
Isn't that crazy that people don't figure out how to be kind? Like just skipped over that part of life. Freaking, Anyway.
I was
it took me 30 years.
Really?
Yeah.
He's still not kind.
I was going to say, Laura, that something you said kind of hit home for Andrew and I when we started dating. We had both come off of relationships where we openly talked about this in like the first week that we dated, that we felt like we were changing who we were for the other people, so much so that we weren't ourselves anymore. And within the first week of dating, we were like, you know what? I'm just going to be me. And if this works, it works. And if it doesn't, we're going to go separate ways. But we got so tired of camouflaging ourselves so the other person liked us that it was exhausting. And it was so freeing to get into a relationship and be like, take it or leave it.
Yeah. Laura and I both have a professional crush on a woman named Logan Ury, who is she wrote a book called How to Not Die Alone. It's for people who are dating right now. And we got to talk to her on our podcast, and she's just doing really great work and a lot of clever insights. But one thing that she said recently that kind of blew my mind was this idea of when you go out with your friends, like let's say Shawn is going out with her new boyfriend and the three of us are with her and she's done. And she says, hey, what did you think of this date? What do you think about this guy? Logan's like, that's not the right question. The right question is, what did you think of me with this guy? Those of us, the three of us who love you really well, and we already know you, like, did we sit there and watch you transform into another person? Or did we watch you go, no, you came out like that guy totally brought out the best. Like he sort of made you shine. Like, I think that's a really interesting observational question for your single friends, maybe who are listening and trying to figure out, like,
I really like that.
Is this the right fit for me?
Yeah, that's good. My thought was, Zach, I liked your answer to marriage because I think there is an effect of becoming your best self. But I almost view it as like a derivative effect of like, hey, the goal of me marrying Shawn is not like, hey, let's bring out the dopest version of Andrew. I guess it is. I don't know. That's interesting to think about. No, like if you really think about why did I marry you, it's interesting. Now, well, I feel like I'm digging myself a hole, but it's not like it's ultimately not for my personal gain, right? It's like, it's a derivative and secondary effect of me committing to the relationship. I don't know. That was my initial thoughts.
I mean,
it's like, I married you because I like you, but I married you because I like me when I'm with you. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yes. I think ultimately when people like walk away from an experience or a date or whatever it might be, when you walk away and you're like, dang, I feel really good about myself when I'm with you, that's where you start to say, I want to replicate that experience as much as possible.
But does that road end at a certain point? Because like when you're parenting, I don't feel good.
It does.
About you know what I'm saying?
The reason that you guys are struggling and the reason that people kind of have a hard time weathering that toddler phase, especially, is that the friendship takes a dive. Right? Like the friendship goes away because we're not going on dates regularly. We're not getting enough sleep. We're not getting, we have this other person who we love and who's amazing that wants our attention. And so we give them that attention and they make us feel loved. And so why would I
Mm-hmm.
turn to you when I can turn to this snuggly, warm, cuddly thing that needs all,
like dopamine hit all the time, snuggling.
That's really it, right? The antidote to sort of weathering that phase. And I think phase is a really important word for marriages. Like there's lots of phases, right? I've been married 24 years and I think we've been through 4 different marriages, maybe 5 at this point. Like it's really important to recognize that you're just going through a moment. But this phase that a lot of people are in, and it's kind of that 4 to 6 range, 4 to 7 range, the friendship needs attention because it's not novel and fun and interesting anymore. And that's a big part of, what the research reveals is that maintaining the friendship in specific ways sets you up for the rest, right? Like I don't tend to argue about petty stuff with people that I love and trust and that I feel like are fond of me. But I will argue with you if I don't think that you like me very much. I'll argue with you about the dishwasher, and I'll go to war over it.
That sounds familiar.
Today's episode is brought to you by SlingTV. Okay, Shawn, so we're in the middle of this house renovation. I'm curious, what's the source of your inspiration?
HGTV's House Hunters.
Is that right?
Yes, I'm obsessed.
Well, you already have such a good eye for it, but it's fun, I'm sure, for you to have so many shows to choose from. And that's why I feel like collectively why we love SlingTV, which we get for just $35 a month. We get all the channels that we love with no contracts. You get your HD TV, I get my ESPN and all my sports channels. It's great.
It really is great. They have live sports, news, reality TV, dramas, comedies, and so much more. You can start streaming today on your TV, phone, or tablet, knowing you're getting the absolute best value, content, and flexibility.
You can pick the channels that mean the most to you. Choose from channels like ESPN, TNT, HGTV, AMC, and many, many more. And if you sign up right now using our link, you can get your first month for just $10.
Take control of your TV solution with Sling. Go to slingtv.com/EastFam to sign up now and get your first month for just $10. That's slingtv.com/EastFam.
I don't know if you knew this, but I was an early adopter of cord cutting.
No
and to see the
way.
technology of how it started versus how it is now, it's amazing. And Sling has really dominated. So we're going to link that down below, and let's get back to it.
A conversation that we have a lot lately in this phase, because we remember having it with our daughter after she was born, the difference of identity that you take on as mom and dad. Mm-hmm. And something that we talk about a lot is we get very tired of just being mom and dad to each other and not husband and wife. And at the end of the day, I'll be like, I want you to see me as your wife and not just the mother of your children. And the compliments are wonderful of like, you're such a good mom and stuff. But at the end of the day, since that friendship kind of takes a toll, all you want to hear is like, I love that you're my husband. I'm attracted to you as my husband and not just a father. So that's something that we work through.
I think,
well, actually, Shawn, I think you're actually really good at that. Like I said, I watched a handful of your videos, and you're very good at letting Andrew know that you love him and that you're interested in him, and like. I think that's if I were assessing,
yes, please.
I would say, yeah, that's an area of strength. Apparently, at least that's hardwired into you, and that's good to know, right? Like that, maybe that's even easy for you, and maybe it's not as easy for a man or for Andrew or for me or whatever. But learning how to do that stuff and almost inventorying like what works. So for example, maybe Andrew hates it when he doesn't, but maybe he hates it when you say, I love you and put your hand on this. Like maybe that's a problem, but he loves it when you make him coffee. Like learning how to make the coffee, even though it's easy for me to say, I love you, that's actually also a sign of love, right? It's kind of going out of the way to speak your language, which I think, why wouldn't you do the thing that you're good at? Well, because sometimes it doesn't land for your partner. And so you have to learn how to do the thing that they need, which is.
But I push it, Zach, like even a little further of maybe not just husband and wife, but I have made a point that whenever I'm with somebody or I'm talking about my husband, I refer to him as my lover. It's just this switch in the way that I talk about him. Like, do you ever notice that when you're, like talking to your daughter and you're like calling him dad? And even when they're not around, you're calling him dad. He is not your dad. Like he is your lover. He's your intimate partner. And I think that the language that you use starts to settle in when you're like, yeah, this is my lover. And people look at you kind of funny, but I think it's just a good way to shift it in your mind. And then the other piece is that there's a difference between adoration and appreciation. And I think especially right now, there's a lot of maybe appreciation that you're referring to of like, hey, thanks so much for, like getting up last night with the baby. Thanks so much for taking the garbage out. This is all appreciation of things that your partner does for you. But you didn't marry Andrew because of the things he does for you. You married Andrew because of the person that he is. That's adoration. And if we can continue to like verbalize, like, I love you because you're incredibly generous. And here's how you showed up being generous in the last week that I just like took my breath away. That's adoration. I think that it goes a lot further in relationships when you're trying to get that spark back, especially if you're kind of like tired or you're falling into roommate syndrome, is lean on adoration more than appreciation.
I had a thought of something I recently read from, actually it was a Rabbi Lapin. And it kind of talks about what you just discussed and also how I actually feel about the purpose of marriage. He says, he breaks down the parent-child relationship and how oftentimes selfless acts create more adoration from the giver of the acts than the receiver. So like the parents are oftentimes more committed to that relationship than the children are. Like if you look at when kids grow up, it's like there's a lesser degree of commitment there. And that's where I feel like I can feel the best about myself if I'm most selfless, and that ultimately achieves that goal.
Yeah.
So anyway,
that's actually happening to you physiologically. It's not just emotional. It's like actually happening in your body. Generally, and the reverse is also true. When we demonstrate contempt for others, it generates stress hormones inside of our body, and it also generates stress hormones inside of our partner. When we generate gratitude and appreciation and fondness, it generates stress reducing hormones inside of our body, and it does that for our partners too. So contempt, I use that word on purpose. It's, for example, one of what the research revealed is the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So they're sort of 4 things that are divorce predictors, I guess. Contempt is one of them. And contempt is basically, whenever you're sort of spend time looking down on your partner, and it's the most toxic because it's physiologically the worst for you. Like it actually affects your body, not just the tone of the relationship.
It got to the point too where they were like, Andrew, if you were contemptuous of Shawn, then Shawn would be much more susceptible to communicable diseases. Like it starts to erode away her actual immune system functioning, which is crazy. So like you ask the reason, like, why are we in marriages? Like, what's the point? If you're in a healthy relationship, it actually shows that like you are going to be healthier, Andrew, because you have a partner that is also like nurturing and taking care of you. But if you're in a bad relationship, it's actually eroding away your physical health.
Wow.
You're actually going to live longer. You're going to live longer. If married people live longer.
Yeah.
So
wait, I just read an article. It might've been from the Gottman Institute about how the biggest indicator of 5 major health conditions, like heart disease, and I don't know, there's 4 other ones, is a bad relationship. I think it was directly with your father, or maybe it was talking about like any bad toxic relationship in your life. But it's like, what?
I've seen a piece of that for sure.
That's crazy. Yeah. I know the Gottman Institute is super well known for the 4 horsemen. Can you talk about those and what they are?
Yeah. So just like kind of rattling them off. So there's really these like 4 behaviors that Dr. Gottman was able to take a look at. So he was able to look at groups of people, of couples, and he sort of labeled one group the masters of relationships. And these are going to be the folks that are married and relatively happy. I mean, the bar is fairly low, but then you have the disasters of relationships. And these are people who were either married and really unhappy, or their relationships dissolved over time. And he looked at, what are the common factors in these relationships that eroded over time? And he really identified these 4 particular behaviors. So we have criticism, defensive,ness, and those are usually married. Like if one of you, and I'm kind of curious from each of you as we're talking about the 4 horsemen, like what shows up in your relationship. Because here
goes the other 50%. It's starting right now.
We all have these behaviors in our relationships. And so generally a criticizer is generally married to a defensive human being. It's just sort of the law of the land, the nature of how it goes.
Or they draw it out in each other.
Yeah. Exactly. That's crazy. So you have criticism and defensiveness, and then you have stonewalling, and then contempt, which is what Zach just talked about.
Are those married too?
Not usually. You will find, not as often as criticism and defensiveness, to be honest. Like those ones are, and actually they show up in just about every relationship.
So we all have all of them.
Exactly.
And it's not that they're present. That's the problem. It's that they're present and uncorrected or unchecked. That's the thing. But I think, Andrew, if I remember correctly, women tend to be critical and contemptuous. Men tend to be defensive and stonewalling. So that sounds
right.
Sounds about right.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
So the deal with criticism is that it's really just, we need to have a relationship where you can identify a problem or an issue, or how I put it is, it's most often you just have a want, wish, need, or desire. And we have to be able to communicate that to our partner, and it's going to come out as a complaint. And what ends up happening with criticism is that you take a problem in the relationship, but you make it about your partner, and now it's a character defect in your partner. That's the critical nature. So that's tough, because obviously if you feel like your partner's attacking you or being critical, what's the natural thing to do? It's to defend yourself, right? And so that's where that tends to be married in relationships. So you're like nodding your head. Are you critical in the relationship from time to time? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, Shawn.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there thinking like, when was the last freaking time I brought something up to you? Like I have issues with you too, but I don't freaking talk about them. Like, can we
Andrew,
all the time, like, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Andrew, when you played football, what position did you play?
Long snapper.
Oh, right on. Oh, I love long.
I have a question for you. I have a long snapper friend. I was wondering if you knew him, but anyway, we'll talk later.
Okay.
But
I'm excited.
Okay. So I get to talk about defensiveness. Yeah. Is that cool? Can I do that? That's my favorite. Because I'm personally defensive. Me, Zach, like that's part of what I said. It took me 30 years. Like about when I was 30, my wife was like, I can't do this like this anymore. Like this isn't sustainable. And she was talking about that part of my approach to just being in a relationship. But you know, what defensiveness generally is people, they tend to take the wrong amount of responsibility. So they either take no responsibility at all, like they counterattack, or they'll take 100% and they become martyrs, right? So if a defensive person is like, fine, I got it. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of this. It's not your thing, right?
I guess it's always my fault, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I can never get it right.
I have a lot of empathy for defensive people because it's me, right? But
hold on. Pause.
It's like a verbatim phase that happens.
I feel like I'm realizing we're both critical and defensive.
Sure you are.
I usually start the criticism of whether it's with parenting or whether it's with like household chores or whatever. That's usually my go-to is like, it starts as a complaint or a request that I don't know how to verbalize and becomes as criticism, or I would guess is interpreted as criticism. And he'll get baseline defensive.
Yeah.
And then his criticism will come out and I go all in. I go martyr.
She's like, like whatever you just said, she says that.
It's all my fault. Yes, I can never do it right. Whatever you say, honey. Yeah,
that's me.
That's
so here's a I'm gonna give you like a bonus, but I think it's really good that you can name that, right? The fact that you can sort of map that out a little bit is really healthy, because if you can map it out, we can know that it's kind of boring. I mean, that's sort of boring what you just described, because you know it's going to happen. Happens every time. It's not interesting. It's not fun. So let's change it. Let's just change. Let's do something else. I literally was working with a couple one time and they were kind of doing exactly that. And it was his turn to talk. And I had built this alliance with the wife. So she and I were ready. We were like ready for the next thing. And I stopped him and I said, Tony, stop, say anything else. We know what you're going to say. Both of us already know exactly what everybody in the room. And he stopped for a second and he said, do you remember what he said, Laura?
Was it Cocoa Puffs?
No, it's Fruity Pebbles. He said, I really love Fruity Pebbles. And it changed the entire tone. She went, huh? And she laughed and giggled. Anyway, but back to the part about defensiveness. The thing that defensive people need to learn to do is to take anywhere from 1 to 99%. Even 1% changes the conversation, right? 1% is, you might be right, or I never thought about it that way. And I think, those of us who, and I believe this is me right now, those of us who are really good at being defensive, it's the reason I asked you about football, because if you think about really good linebackers or safeties, they're good at it because they're patient. They're good at it because they recognize the difference between a perceived threat and an actual threat. They're good at it because they study ahead of time. Like really good defensive players, they're not good at tackling. They're good at making sure you never get the ball in the first place. And so those of us who identify as defensive, part of it is just to learn how to be patient and smart and willing to belay the impulse to tackle, perhaps, or counterattack long enough to go, oh, maybe there's something here that I ought to pay attention to. And when we can begin to do that, that's me taking responsibility for my stuff, back to what we talked about at the beginning. And when we start to do it together, that's us protecting our relationship from those 4 horsemen out there, right? That's us saying we're not boring. We're not regular. We're not normal. We're actually really good at identifying an external threat and protecting us from that. So sometimes that's the defensive person learning to say to the criticizer, hey, I know you're unhappy. Sounds like you're trying to ask me for something. Right now I'm feeling defensive. Do you think you could just ask me a question? Because that way maybe we'll get to the root of this. All of a sudden we've changed the whole game. And that, I think, is where the Gottman method in particular gives people really clear roadmap for how to do it differently. To do it differently.
Yeah. I think that's a big deal. Is just, it's about, it's actually kind of scary. I mean, when Dr. Gottman's book, I have it. So it's like the 7 principles came out, 7 principles for making marriage work. A lot of people read the first 3 chapters, which is all about divorce prediction.
Pretty gloomy.
It's pretty doom and gloom. And the whole idea with Gottman method is, nobody's doing it right. We don't have models of how to do it right. We've come out of relationships where we weren't doing it right. We're in a new relationship, but it's really just about interrupting interrupting these patterns that we know are eventually going to erode away. Maybe not today, but if left unattended to for the next several years, it's going to erode away your friendship and erode away at your joy in the relationship where you stop showing up as your best self. And so it's really about just identifying those and saying, do this instead. So like Shawn, you mentioned criticism. I try to bring issues up as, gently as possible, but they're perceived as maybe being threatening or critical. And it's really all about like, just a trick is like, just start the sentence with I rather than you. I mean, the moment you say like you, it's like pointing your finger at your partner and saying you're the problem rather than, hey, there's this thing that is not really settling well with me and it kind of makes me feel this way. And I'd really love it if this happened instead. That's super gentle. That's the antidote to criticism. And so it's really just about figuring out how to do it differently and do it in a gentle way.
The beginning is actually I feel, but what it's definitely not is I feel like, and it's definitely not I feel like you. I feel like you don't pay attention to me when I'm talking. Like that's not a feeling. That's a
never take me out on dates.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bite.
Do you want to explain to everybody our new obsession with biting?
I think you mean to say obsession with Bite.
Please explain.
I am never using boring regular toothpaste ever again.
Me either. My teeth have never been cleaner, and I'm so relieved to finally be using a clean ingredient toothpaste.
Bite is reinventing personal care by making products that are good for you and the planet.
Its hero product is their dry toothpaste tablets that come in a reusable glass jar, and the refills come in home compostable pouches.
You just pop one in your mouth, bite down, and brush. It will foam up just like regular toothpaste, but with no plastic tube or messy paste. It was weird at first, honestly, but now I'm hooked. It's a great experience.
I'm hooked too. It was strange, but I love it.
They also make a fantastic bamboo toothbrush and a teeth whitening gel. You can get their toothpaste in the normal, regular white bites and also charcoal bites. So anyway, I think we also have a deal for you.
Bite is offering our listeners 20% off your first subscription order. Go to trybite.com/EastFam or use code EastFam at checkout to claim this deal.
That's TRYBITE.com/EastFam. We're also gonna link that down below, and let's get back to it. So I have 2 questions.
Okay.
We're probably going to go over time, just so you know, because I'm enjoying this. One is we have tried to set this cadence of monthly checkups with the purpose being, and on my end, to have an area where I know Shawn's going to criticize me. Because I feel like when we're in the moment of like the dishes being done, freaking, it's going to end in an argument if you say, you never do the dishes. And I'm like, can we not talk about it live? Right?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yes, 100%. And it's interesting because we talk about like, let's say that the two of you are getting frisky and Shawn, I'm going to get like
frisky
really
in a good way.
Frisky in a good way. Yeah.
Oh,
You're getting
okay.
You're getting sweet love in the bedroom and maybe things just don't since having a baby and like you don't feel the same about your body and you like love something that you used to like doesn't smell as good and sexy to you as it used to be. So the time to talk about that sexual experience is not right after you're done and you're like, oh, that was talk about it is after the fact. Like when you are ready to, when you're on a walk and like you've got a kid on a bike, you got a kid in a stroller and you're like, hey, about us like getting frisky, that like didn't actually go well for me. And here's what I was thinking would really go better. Or here are the things that I really, really liked that you did, and lean more into that. But yeah, I totally bothering you. Like, don't talk about them in the moment. Make sure that you're showing up as your best self when you do take on that conversation meeting or your like state of the union of the relationship. You can prep for that. You're like, you know what? I'm going to work out ahead of time. So I'm in a really good mood and I'm going to make sure that I'm done with my inbox. So I'm not thinking about work. I'm going to show up to this ready for whatever you have to bring to the table.
I'm going to, I'll add something too. And it's a little bit of a plug, but this thing that we're teaching, the art and science of love, I think maybe it's after or it's before this podcast comes out or whatever, but it's 5 times a year, I think. And one of the things that I like about it is that during that event, you learn about 5 different conversations to have on purpose. and they have different purposes. So for example, the first one is about stress reduction. Learn how to have a conversation for the purpose of reducing stress. That's a really important, that sometimes we don't know how to do that because my partner says, oh, I'm stressed out. And what we say instead is, well, did you think about this? And maybe you should call, and have you tried? And that's not stress reducing. That's actually stress increasing. So part of it is learning how to label the conversation. So to your point, Andrew, like, I think if there's a spot in your relationship where, hey, I need to have a spot where on purpose, I hear about the things that are on your mind, like that are bothering you, or that you need me to correct or redirect. Like, we can learn how to do that. And the cool thing about that is, let's say you have it once a month or once a week, and it shouldn't be like a bitch session. Like, there should be really rules about it, which is cool. That
we do. Yeah, we do.
But here's the reality. If Shawn, for example, knows that every Sunday night she's going to get 45 minutes of your undivided attention to talk about what's on her mind, then on Thursday, when you do something wrong with the dishes, she doesn't have to tell you right then. She can wait. She can know that I can wait till Sunday, and chances are she'll forget between Thursday and Sunday. Because the main thing is, I know that I can talk about this.
Yeah.
And when I know that I can talk about this, maybe I don't need to.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think that actually makes a lot of sense given the phase we're in. Is I think a lot of our bickering comes because we don't get any time with each other and know when the next time is going to be.
Yeah.
So it's like, my only shot is maybe in the next 2 minutes.
Yeah. Or you'll say something like, hey, did you make that deposit at the bank? And we don't know what the rest of the sentence is. Like, is it you lazy bum, or because I just wrote a check that we need to cover, or because I think the check's in my purse and I hope that I didn't make that bad for you. Like, if you don't know, then I just get to make up a story about why you're asking me that question. And if I'm in a bad mood, if I'm hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, I'm just gonna be like, no, I'll get to it. Jesus, why are you asking me again? I told you. Like, and all of a sudden it's just not a thing. That's hungry, angry, lonely, tired, but it's halt.
Were you just doing this?
That was good. Hungry is oftentimes where I live.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but here's the other thing too, right? If your friendship is strong and you know that your partner is doing their work, if I look across relationships and I know that you're doing your personal work, the thing that we've talked about already, and then you snap at me, I can go, wait a second, I'm going to snap back. I can be like, snap back. Or I can go, hey, do you need a sandwich? Like, what's going on? Because this isn't you. Like, can I get you a sandwich? And I don't mean to be trite about it, but if I can look at you and go, hey, your best you doesn't treat me like this. And so maybe you need something other than me to show up and not my best me. And it might be a nap, it might be a sandwich. It might be just to go for a walk without the kids. Like, who knows? But it's a clue, right? My partner misbehaving or acting out is a clue, not necessarily. So what I say to defensive people all the time is feeling attacked isn't the same as being attacked.
It's good.
Right? So, I mean, the feeling and the response to go, maybe there's something else going on here that I need to pay attention to.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
And
okay.
maybe loaded. They're maybe loaded. To what you were just saying, Zach, patient people may be able to realize that there's something else going on there. How I feel like the better you get to know your spouse year after year, you start to notice when there's something wrong. And I feel like a tendency between us is we haven't even addressed it internally, but we can tell, we can feel it in each other. And so when those rifts and those arguments start, whether it's me going to him or I could say, Andrew, I know something's wrong and it's not this. It's not dinner. It's not the dishes. It's not, there's something else. How do you address that as a partner?
Without it coming like what I feel like it often, exactly.
Yeah. Well, okay. So what you're talking about, Shawn, is emotional intelligence. I mean, what you're doing is amazing. It's just being able to
we need less of that, Laura. Can we tone that down?
No, you guys, it's good. But I mean, there's another facet of emotional intelligence, which is knowing yourself, like being in relationship with yourself, recognizing what's going on for you, but then also being in relationship with what's going on for them. And, there's something we say a lot, which is all about curiosity, of just coming across in a curious nature of like, hey, and I love this phrase. I think that Brene Brown uses it a lot, as therapists use it a lot. And it's the story I'm telling myself. And so you could start and just be like, hey, like the story I'm telling myself is that there's something going on for you. I think you're stressed out, but I'm not really sure. I'm just curious, like, what is going on in your life?
But it's so interesting because then it's like, no, there's nothing wrong with me. And then she's like, oh, well, he's being defensive or like.
But I know there is.
And,
like,
and so you want to
well,
ride.
but
Like,
yeah, and I think
And then it's an
Andrew,
argument
to that.
Like,
yeah.
Well, to that though, like even that response right there was like, I would label it defensive because you didn't there. If you put a pause in and you go, maybe there is something wrong with me. Doesn't mean there is. It means I hear you. I validate what you're saying. I respect that you're my partner. One of the things this is the other part that I would give you is
crazy, dude.
One of the things that's really awesome about being a therapist is I get to do this stuff, right? I get to go, no, I think you actually just said it wrong. Like, that's not the right, like, but what's built into that is consent. Like, people pay me money and they come into my office and they take time out of their day to ask me to tell them what is going on. And we don't often get that consent from our partners. So Shawn wants to come in and go, hey, here's what I think is going on, but you don't have consent yet. And so part of what you may need to do is go, hey, I have a theory. Can I test it with you? And then he gets to go, sure, test it. And then the theory is out there. And then maybe Andrew, you get to go, oh, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like anything's wrong, but I mean, you know me better than anybody, so I'll check it out. Like, that could be the pivot, right?
On that note, and we actually just did a live stream this morning. Someone asked this question, and Shawn and Andrew are freaking terrible at this. I think it's an art. How do you transition out of an argument?
Yeah.
Like, what's okay? I love you. I'm sorry. What freaking?
Can I take
Okay, you can have.
And I will
both.
also
We
add
need
to that.
all of the advice. So both of you answer.
I will also add to that. I'm a fighter. So like, it's hard for me to turn fighting off.
Yeah.
I just like, when the gloves come out, it's like, let's do it. Let's just
Totally.
go.
But there's a tipping point for you, Shawn, where the gloves are still on. Like, there's a part of you that can stay in the conversation as your best self, where you're still like gentle and you're still empathetic and you're still humorous and you still like have compassion. But so Dr. Gottman noticed that there really is like a tipping point that folks go through where you go into fight or flight, where the gloves come off and you're like, we are in this. And for most people, it's right around 100 beats per minute. So like, if we're exercising, our heart rate is going to go up, but our resting heart rate for most, healthy average human beings is going to be like between like 50 and 70. So it's going to take a bit for your heart rate to reach up and over 100 beats per minute when you go into what's called diffuse physiological arousal. And that's when you're like, we are on, we're in this. But the whole idea is to keep you at the point before you take out what Dr. Gottman calls repairs. He says that this is like of healthy, happy relationships. And repairs are really just these like little minor adjustments that you're making in your conversation that keep you from escalating to the point where you are emotionally flooded and you're ready to take your gloves off and go to battle. There's all sorts of phrases that you could use. And you guys actually probably have a lot of repairs that you're using. And it's things like, I'm sorry, I actually used this one with Zach. Do you remember what I said to you earlier today? I said, hey, I had a really tough time sleeping last night. And I know that I'm going to be irritable with you. And I just want to apologize in advance. It's sort of like these phrases of like, ooh, that came out wrong. Do you think maybe I could can I rephrase that? Or, ooh, that was like a dagger. Can you be a little more gentle with me? It's all of these little moments where you're just correcting the conversation so that it doesn't end up in a full on brawl. But if it does end up being a brawl, that's where you do the moonwalk, exit stage left, and you're just like, I think we need to take a break. This isn't going well. And anything beyond this point is just going to end up in a massive fight. It's not going to go well. What were you going to say, Zach?
I got a lot.
I know, right? Wordy.
Give it to us. What do you got?
Here's the thing about you're a fighter. Sure, you're a fighter, but you're also a dancer, right? Like, I know this. I've watched you dance, and you know that choreography is a thing. And in fact, most combat is choreography. Most combat is not just pugilistic. Let's take the gloves off and do this. It's mostly it's a response and interaction. And part of it is learning to think about your arguments as choreography, not combat. And that means, you're going to try and play each other to create something. Like, here's the thing that I think is really cool. If you do combat really well, if you do conflict really well, what's on the other side? If you do it really well, what's on the other side?
Close
Connection.
It's makeup sex, right? That's called makeup sex for a reason. And so if you do it really well, what you're doing is you're sort of respecting the battle and respecting the opponent. Those of us who are combative or who are fighters, that becomes a problem. And one of the ways you can respect the battle is to realize that you're in over your head. one or both of you are in over your head. And so the moonwalk thing, I actually prefer to what Laura did with me this morning, because what Laura did with me this morning was a very relational, self-aware, in the moment thing. And it changed my brain because I was kind of getting annoyed. And I was sort of, I was kind of getting annoyed, and I was sort of like, don't talk to me like this and blah, 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 because we do that. And then she said that, and I literally went, and that was it. The whole thing was over. But the moonwalk thing, what it does is it gives you permission to exit without having to be emotionally intelligent. And sometimes that's a hand signal. It could be a code word. In my house, we have a restaurant near our house called the Royal Unicorn, that if one of us says it in a social setting, it means I got to go to the bathroom. And what it means is, for my teenage daughter in particular, you need to go to the bathroom. Go to the bathroom, calm your shit down, pull it together, stop behaving like this, and come back when you're ready. But it keeps me from being at the dinner table and going, hey, you're acting out. Don't do that. It's disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. And we have a lot of cousins. So this is when we use it the most. I'm like, go to the bathroom. But that little tiny code interrupts the inertia that sometimes getting in the combat can create, because there's no, I don't know what, I mean, that's why boxing matches have bells, right? Like ding, ding, let's take a break.
It's so interesting. Oftentimes I feel like an argument doesn't end with us unless there's tears, and it's like once there's tears, then it's like, oh, I hug you and I love you and I'm sorry, and then we can proceed from there slowly is typically how it goes. But that's really good. And
I also think, like, observation from our side of when we argue, I feel like when we argue, we tend to go cold towards each other.
That's the Stonewall case.
Instead of sympathetic or empathetic of any kind, we just get colder and colder and colder. So that transition out of an argument is very hard for us, because by the time we've gotten to the end of it, we're so shut off that neither of us feel loved. So it makes it very hard for us to transition. And so I think the tears usually come from a desperation of, we just want connection.
Yeah. So I will say a lot. I'll say this 100 times. Like, repair is more important than resolve. Repair is more important than resolve. Repair is more important than resolve. Most of us want to resolve our stuff. We want, because resolution feels like the goal to us. But again, the research revealed that about 2/3 of what you have going on in your relationship is unresolvable. It is baked in. It is not going away. It is going to be there. It was there 5 years ago. It's going to be there 5 years from now. You're never going to have some of the core hardwiring that you have. And people bang their heads against the wall forever trying to resolve that stuff. I want to change you. I want to do that. Well, you're not gonna. Like, it is a waste of energy, and it creates more conflict than it doesn't. So if you focus on repair, meaning exactly what you said, let's make sure that we stay connected. Then you can create a new perspective about the thing that's unresolvable. So we put a question on our Instagram page. I think it was, what's the worst marriage advice you got? Can you imagine the number one answer?
Go to bed angry.
Worst marriage advice. What is it?
Or don't go to bed angry.
Exactly. Don't go to bed angry. It is terrible. It's terrible advice. Go to bed angry. Go to bed angry.
And go to bed in separate beds. This isn't Dr. Gottman's research, but I think it really makes sense of, like, here's the thing. I love keeping, like, the bedroom sacred, and that's sacred. It's a sacred space. If you're irritated and angry and you're frustrated, I wouldn't necessarily want to bring that energy into the bedroom. Like, if you're just you're saying, like, ding, 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 like, hey, we've really had a tough time. Let's sleep on it. Let's eat on it. Let's, like, take a little break, get back to our best selves. And if that means that you are, going to another room so that you can kind of fuel up on yourself and come back and then have that resolve, have that repair with your partner, A-okay. But that is Laura Heck advice right there, is be okay sleeping in another room.
Well, it can actually be respectful, right? Because maybe you wake up in the morning and go, do we still need to do this? And you go, no, I just needed it. I just needed to go to sleep because I was tired, right? HALT. I was tired.
It's so interesting. You mentioned, or you phrased something at the beginning, Zach, that I found interesting. You said, like, how I do relationships, how I am in relationships. And it
how
got
I
me
am
thinking,
Zach, or how I am Andrew?
Well, you said it as you were Zach, but like, it is interesting, this idea of, like, Andrew is like a personality, but then he gets hijacked in different situations, whether it's in, like, marriage or, like, friendships or in competitive environments. And it's like, just having the ability to, someone said, be both the performer and the audience as you're living your life, of like, oh, I'm experiencing this frustration in marriage, but I need to have the self-awareness of, this is, what happens when I do, like, when I'm in conflict. It's interesting because, like, it's like we're getting hijacked by our emotions or our hunger. It's like, it's weird. But
Well, and the psychobabble version of that is like, who am I talking to? Am I talking to Andrew? Am I talking to Andy? Am I talking to A-Dog? Am I talking to just, like, who am I talking to? Because those are all different people. And what I want is my lover, right? I want to talk to that guy. Can I have that guy? And maybe the answer is no. I'm still distracted about work, and I just woke up, or but he'll show up later. He'll be here at lunch. That if Shawn knows that she can get her lover at lunchtime, then maybe she doesn't try to like force him out during breakfast.
That takes strategy though, and like setup.
It does. It does. Absolutely.
Wow.
Choreography, if you will.
Yeah.
Bringing it.
I feel like I could ask a million more questions because you're hitting like everything that we've ever argued about. I'm like all the different hats that we wear in a day, the toddler stuff. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. Huh. Well, I think yeah, there's nothing new under the sun, man. People are all dealing with this stuff. It's hard for everybody, and I think, again, one of the things you guys are really doing that's adding value is giving people access to help. And even if it's just an honest conversation about, this isn't what I signed up for. Okay, well, let's sign up for something else. And some people choose to sign up for something else, meaning I'm going to opt out of this relationship. But those of us who are committed to the process, like I said, I've been married to the same woman 4 different times, and we had to like negotiate new terms as we entered new phases. And, part of that is just learning how to be in the phase you're in. And then when it's time, like, for example, do you guys know if you're done having children? Do you have any idea? Maybe that's too personal of a question.
That is a very personal question.
Oh, that's not too personal. It's okay.
Well,
we get asked it a million times a day. We don't know. Yeah.
We don't know. Yeah. So, but if you did know, for example, if you're like, yep, vasectomy, all done, whatever, you're in a new phase all of a sudden, right? We're no longer growing our family. This is our family, and this is the unit we're working with until they turn 18 or something. That's a different phase. The phase of still expanding your family is unknown. It's unclear. Like, we don't know. Maybe we're going to have babies. Maybe we're not. Like, maybe we're going to try and be unsuccessful, or maybe we're going to accidentally, like, that's a different phase. But, once you can sort of label and clear the hurdles of the phases, you can behave differently. And that does take strategy, to your point, Andrew.
So you mentioned, we try to provide help for people. Our goal, I'll say it again, is we do not give advice because we are not professionals nor qualified to do that.
That's why we do live therapy sessions.
If anything, maybe people listen to our conversations and they're like, wow, Shawn and Andrew are really messed up, and I'm glad we're not like that. And that's a win for us. That would be great. But how can people get help from your camp, if you will?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think first of all, if folks are thinking, I'm not really sure if like therapy, because oftentimes you have one partner that is like game on, love their partner is like begrudgingly just showing up, but not really invested. I think a great entry into that would do a couples workshop. It is like really low stakes. You can sit on your couch with your dog and do a live virtual workshop with Zach and myself. It's called The Art and Science of Love. Our next one is on October 23rd and 24th. You can find it gottman.com/MTR.
We'll be there.
That would be awesome. We'll give you the homie hookup. How about that?
Hey.
Yes. So my son was going, yes, the other day. I was like, he's 6 years old. I loved it. So that's one way. But I think, if you're someone who found you through podcasts, through YouTube, if you're into taking in information like that, Zach and I we're about, I don't know, maybe 40% information and 60% entertainment on our podcast.
Oh, I'd flip it over.
You would flip it over? All right. Maybe 60% intelligent information, which is good. Right. And so our podcast is a great place to go. It's Marriage Therapy Radio. I think a really good entry too is the book that I had mentioned that Dr. Gottman wrote. It's a New York Times bestseller. It's been around for a long time. Recently updated with new research, but it's called The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. And that's really just like an overview of the foundational relationship skills that every couple can integrate into their relationship.
Yeah. And I would say, do anything at all.
Anything.
Like, it almost doesn't matter. If you're feeling like roommates and you're stuck, just switch it up. I mean, you can subscribe to Date Night in a Box. You can, listen to podcasts. You can try a new show. You can switch sides of the bed. I mean, shoot, sleep on the other side of the bed tonight. Just anything, because part of the trauma of relationships is we're just in a rut. We're in the same thing. We're telling the same stories over and over again because we have 500 words And, a podcast will give you 10 more, and a book will give you 30 more. And, switching sides of the bed will give you a few more. And then when you have more words, you can tell, a truer, more textured, more layered story about what's really going on,
Dang.
That'd be my advice is, do anything at all.
I like that.
But
a
yes,
lot.
also follow us on Instagram at the Marriage Therapy Radio.
We will link everything that Zach and Laura just mentioned down below, including the workshop. But we should do, the plan was to do a live therapy session. Kind of did didn't quite, but we'll do a part 2. How about that? Are you guys down
we'd
for
love
that?
to.
This was fun.
we'd love to.
And we're thankful you guys took the time to talk to us. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.